Howdy, Aggie Land, and a very pleasant, good, happy game day, whatever words you want to use to you wherever you may be. Welcome into the TexAgs Tailgate. My name's Richard Zane, and over the next 90 minutes as we get you set for this 6:45 p.m. kickoff between the Ags and New Mexico State Aggies, we'll go ahead and run down the latest storylines. We'll let you know what we're seeing from Kyle Field, live hits, David Nuno coming up in just a moment. The Ags and everybody, the Ags and the Ags, I guess. First, I should go ahead and throw that out there. It's a very confusing Aggie versus Aggie matchup. The maroon and white are already out on the field running through some warm-ups. We'll also get some news and notes from David Nuno on what he's seeing from the New Mexico State side of things. We'll also check in on scores from around the country. And, of course, we'll go ahead and give you 5 predictions on our way out as Texas A&M plays their last non-conference game of the season. Couple things to keep in mind. This game's a 6:45 p.m. kick on the SEC Network. Dave Neal on the call. Aaron Murray is the color commentator for this one between A&M and New Mexico State. It's also senior night in Aggie Land, and you're thinking, why is it senior night? It's not the last game of the season. That's because Mike Elko and company wanted to take the time to honor the senior class, 26 of them. We'll get you those names in a minute as well. 26 guys who deserve their moment in the sun, their time to shine, the 12th man giving them their flowers and all of that. All of that would not be possible if you were trying to do senior night before the reigniting of a rivalry. So we'll get you all of that here on the TexAgs Tailgate. A reminder, if you're tuning in from College Station, that TexAgs has an actual physical tailgate going on outside our walls right now. It's free of charge. Show up, listen to some music, hang out with some Ags. We've got the standard ranch water, Shiner Bock beers, Rebecca Creek, whiskey, all of that free of charge. Come hang out before you make your way to Kyle Field. And with that, I want to go ahead and say howdy to David Nuno inside Kyle Field. First time in 2 weeks. Poppy, how's it feel to be back inside the home of the 12th man?
You know, it's interesting, Richard. I was actually having these inner emotions of like, it's not an SEC game. I'm excited to see them play, but, I'm already thinking about Auburn. Then I get to Kyle Field, and actually on my journey here, I saw how packed Aggie Park was and how excited the fans were for this game. And I'm out here watching Torian York, Jacob Bostic, all these guys behind me warming up, getting ready for this game and how important it is for them. So I'm actually kind of back in. That's what happens when you walk into the magic of Kyle Field. You kind of get right into the zone. And there's a lot of things we want to see in this game, right? I know the most important thing that we talked about all week is health, right? But what does the offense look like now that Le'Veon Moss is not the starting running back with his injury? He's done for the year. So what does it look like with Amari Daniels having to handle the bulk of that load? A guy that I think we all love to see run the ball, but now he's going to be thrust into that first spot with E.J. Smith in that second spot. So there's a lot of storylines in this game, Richard, that we want to see. Senior day, as you mentioned, it should be fun. And look, this team could be a 5-7 team. They could be a 7-5 team, or they could be a team on the brinks of making the playoffs. You know that this place is going to be rocking.
We'll get to what you want to see in just a moment. You touched on a few of the big notes that we need to see. Obviously, Le'Veon Moss out for the year. What does the running game and the offense as a whole look without number 8 a part of it? But I want to get the feel. You've been able to see more of College Station today, more of the area around Kyle Field than I have, getting to walk over to the stadium. So what's the vibe like in Aggie Land? Because you know me, I'm confined to these 4 walls. I don't get the feel of a game day in College Station real good.
All right, so remember for the LSU game how crazy it was, right? Like that was like before the game. I know the game obviously was crazy, and the second half was amazing, but it was crazy around town. There was traffic today, not that rivals the LSU game, but a lot of traffic coming into TexAgs for me. And then that walk that I was mentioning, I was walking with Kay. We were just taken back about how cool it was seeing how many people were out there with maroon on. And it was a packed, it just did not feel like a November non-conference game. Didn't feel that. It felt more like what the first week or the second week of a season looks like. And I think it's because everybody knows, regardless of what happened at South Carolina, that this team is knocking on the door of the playoffs if they take care of business. And that business does start today. You do have to take care of business today. Stay healthy and then go on the road next week. And obviously, you know what happens if they take care of Auburn, sets up another playoff match with Texas for a chance to go to the SEC championship game. And that's kind of the vibe I got outside these doors.
You say that. You say you have to take care of business today, David. Technically, you don't have to, right? Because you still control your own destiny in the SEC. If you win your next 2 games, Auburn and Texas, beyond this one, you're going to get to the SEC championship game in Atlanta in 2 weeks. And by virtue of winning the SEC title game, somebody's going to get into the playoff out of this league. But like you said, you do have to take care of business today because it's a get-right game. You're coming off of a loss 2 weeks ago. You've had to dwell on it for 14 days, and you've got this prime opportunity out of an open date to start feeling good about yourselves again. Just kind of go. You don't have to go through the motions. I don't think the outcome's in jeopardy or in question at all tonight, but you want to feel real good about your performance tonight. Is that what you mean by take care of business, Nuno?
Yeah, well, it starts with that, right? Like, you want to see a team that is angry when they make tackles, a team that did not forget how to tackle after the South Carolina debacle, right? You want to see a team that's angry, takes care of business, where you can rest your starters in the second half. You want to see Marcel Reed kind of get the ball, throw the ball down the field, not just rely on his legs, open up the offense a little bit. You want to see your second team get some work in. But the most important thing is you want to feel good again, right? Like, you've been thinking about that loss to South Carolina. And while the players I know do a really good job of moving on to the next day's game plan, when you step on this field, you want to leave some really good tape for your coaches, for NFL scouts. And that's the thing. I'd love to see a game where Scorton gets 3 sacks, the defensive line goes crazy, and they start stat padding. So then the rest of the season is there a little reminder, this is what we can do when we're on the same page. And I think it wasn't that they weren't on the same page at South Carolina. I just think South Carolina that day played a brilliant game, and A&M did not play a brilliant game, obviously.
So tell us what's going on behind you. I saw Micah Tease almost bumped into you a few moments ago. Don't worry, no one right behind you right now, Nuno. But who are some of the players you're seeing warming up and all of stuff like that? Anything of note right now?
Well, I'm gonna let Casey kind of give you a little lay of the land. He's running the camera right now. I don't see any A&M players. There's a few in the middle of the field that are talking, and it looks like they're just hanging out. It looks like some special teamers from this angle, but nobody. Everybody else just went in for that first. There's that first group of warm-ups, and then about 65 minutes before the game is when you get the official warm-ups where the quarterbacks come out. For the first group that comes out is the special teams, offensive line, quarterbacks, wide receivers, the special skill players will start coming out. So right now, a little bit different vibe than it was for the LSU game, because if you remember the LSU game, there was some fighting going on, but this area was packed right at the same time. Right. There was a lot of action. It seems like now New Mexico State's starting to walk back, and it looks like these are some New Mexico State players walking back to their locker room. One thing I'll say about New Mexico State, you really got to pay attention to their running game. All right, their running game is. I know they've been doing it in Conference USA. It's not against SEC opponents, but they got some guys that can run the ball there. And I know that A&M has done a superb job of stopping opponents' run game, but this is a run game that's averaging over 5 yards to carry. They're a team that can get it done on the ground. That's really the only way they move the ball. They've had 4 different quarterbacks play this year, so they've had a revolving door at the quarterback spot. So for New Mexico State to be able to do anything, it starts with the running game and Sam McGowan.
Absolutely. One of those specialists I saw behind you is Randy Bond. He's going to be one of the 26 Aggies honored during senior night festivities, having a fantastic year, 16 of 18. He was one of the only guys I recognized number-wise. He was kicking a field goal, it looked like right around midfield when Casey panned over that way. Nuno, what else do you need to see? You kind of touched on a few things. You highlighted a few things. You have anything in depth you want to share with us that you really, really want to see between this matchup?
So it was the month of October where New Mexico State did not create a turnover. Okay. So have a turnover-free game, guys. This is a game like you don't want to give the ball away and give a team like this. Not that they're going to get again. I hate it sounds like such a disrespectful shot to you're not going to. You have no chance in Mexico State. But you have no chance in Mexico State. And if I'm wrong, put that on social media, and I'll make a fool of myself for years. But the bottom line is, don't give them any opportunities to feel good about themselves, right? And also clean up. You had 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter against South Carolina. Don't have turnovers in the fourth quarter. Don't have any turnovers, right? This has been a very fourth quarter driven team. If you look at all the games this year, all of them, fourth quarter against Notre Dame. That game was in reach. You were tied with 5 minutes left. You ended up losing by 10. South Carolina, you were down 10 with a chance to cut it down to a 1-score game. You messed that one up as well. Look at Arkansas. You were tied entering the fourth quarter. You turned it on in the fourth, right? You look at all these games this year, it comes down to the fourth quarter. This game will not come down to the fourth quarter, but you got to play a clean football game because, as we joke at the office, Richard, the standard is the standard. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. You better play with that same kind of intensity because if not, what's going to happen next week when you go to Auburn? And we all know on the road to the SEC, it's a difficult atmosphere. So take care of business today, stay healthy, go on the road, continue to play clean football because on the road, especially if you take care of the football, you're going to have so much better chance of winning. So you can't give up the ball, and it starts today.
Currently 5:25 local time in College Station. I'm looking on Twitter. Texas A&M football tweeted that senior recognitions begin at 6:25 p.m. So if you're looking for that extra nudge, that extra reason to get to Kyle Field early, there's that. Nuno, when it comes to A&M running the ball, what do you expect to see the Aggies do tonight and moving forward now that Le'Veon Moss is no longer in the picture, out with a season-ending injury? Ruben Owens still down, still out, potentially could be back towards the back end of the season. Well, I guess we're already at the back end of the season, but perhaps a playoff run or a bowl game, something like that. What do you expect to see on the ground from the Ags?
So as for Ruben Owens, look, if you get anything from him at all this season in a playoff situation, in a bowl game, that's just gravy. But I'm not banking on that right now. I'm banking on what they have right now because even Jabri Barber, who's been such a delight to watch as he emerged this season, he suffered a bad injury in spring ball, and he wasn't ready to roll right when he came. And he came back early, too. Let's not forget, he came back the week before. I think it was the week before the Florida game where he came back. And it was McNeese, and he looked okay, but it takes time. So, any illusions that Ruben Owens is going to transform this running game, I believe in him very much. But let's let him get healthy and let him get some reps before that's even the case, if that's this season or next season. So with the group that you have right now, I'm really interested in seeing what the offensive line does. I want to see Armaj Reed Adams get back to what we saw early on. Chase Basantis' impact is so important to that offensive line. We have felt his departure the last couple of games. If he comes back by the end of the year, which a lot of people are expecting that will be the case, what's going to happen with TJ Shanahan? Can he take a big step forward this week, excuse me? Can Armaj Reed Adams take a big step? Those are guys that are going to have to help out in the short yard situations with Amari Daniels and E.J. Smith. It is too hard to assess E.J. Smith's play this year, although he has gotten a lot of looks. He's been the third back, and it hasn't been the kind of continuous reps that he would like to see. So now he's been put in that position, and I think he's had a couple plays taken away from him. I know because of penalty. Let's see what he can do without penalties and get that ground game going. They're going to have no problems running the ball today at all. I don't think they're going to have an issue at all, but they're going to have to get that. I really think the chemistry more than anything with Marcel Reed and Amari Daniels. That's something that I'm paying attention to because with that zone read option, you want to make sure that you are on the same page and in sync.
One of the other things as it pertains to the A&M ground game is there's been some rumors circulating College Station just a little bit. So, Nuno, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. This is your opportunity to either confirm or deny that you are the defensive back that has moved positions and is now taking reps at running back. Is that you, Nuno?
Why would I say that here, Richard? I think you've really put me in a tough situation because if I want to surprise Auburn next week or the University of Texas, if we tell the audience right now that I'm the guy that they're going to lean on for those situations, then I think we're giving too much away. So let's just allow it to happen as it happens.
Well, you know me. I have a reputation of asking the selfish questions in bad moments. So anyways, we'll keep that under wraps.
And you will never ask a question again on the Tailgate Show.
Thank you. Well, I got one more question for you before we let you go as you get ready for this game, 6:45 kickoff between Texas A&M and New Mexico State. And it's an easy one for you, Nuno. Who wins, and give me a score prediction.
So the line that we used on the show, I think, was 39.5?
Yeah.
And I took the under. So I feel like that's wrong. Hey, you can say hi. I don't mind. There's a little kid who just got on. I don't know if you guys saw him on camera. I was hoping he'd say hi.
Bring him back. Star of the show.
The score that comes to my head does not match my Friday thoughts. So I'm going to say 49-10.
Okay. 49-10. And obviously the team that's winning that one is the Aggies, right?
Yeah. You betcha believe it. Yeah. The Aggies are going to win that one. The Texas A&M Aggies are going to win 49-10. By the way, have you ever gone back to see how close we've gotten on these scores?
I haven't, to be honest with you. I know I was way off the last time we did this show.
We both were
incorrect on my winner and on the final score. It was just not even in the ballpark. It was rather embarrassing. So Yikes.
You and me both. I think at LSU we were a little close. I don't know if I had that much of a victory, but I think I had us by double digits. I don't remember. Somebody can look at the tape and tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Well, Nuno,
Hey,
appreciate you.
if
Go
you want
ahead.
to see somebody, Sean Spencer right over there walking by, the defensive line coach, Sean Spencer, and they're going to be paying a lot of attention to what he does, obviously, what the defensive line does against New Mexico State, and obviously the last two opponents there in Auburn and Texas. Sorry, Richard, I just saw him. I wanted to give you
No, you're
something to look
good.
at.
That's what this show's about. Nuno, appreciate you taking the time. And of course, as always, keep Kay and Olin in check up there in the press box, please.
Olin's here? Just kidding. Yes, of course, Richard. Thank you.
Of course, that's David Nuno live at Kyle Field as we count down to kickoff here on the TexAgs Tailgate Show. I'm Richard Zane inside our Rollo Insurance studio. It's 5:30 local time. That means kickoff is what? Aggie math here, 75 minutes away. Go ahead and run down a few more New Mexico State notes for you as we get you set for this one between the fighting Texas Aggies and the New Mexico State Aggies. Keep in mind that New Mexico State's a team that went into Jordan-Hare last year and really embarrassed an Auburn team that was trying to find its footing under first-year head coach Hugh Freeze. This is not that same team at all. Pretty much the only thing that is the same about this New Mexico State team is the name New Mexico State. They've got a new head coach. It's first-year head man Tony Sanchez. He was there the last couple of years as a wide receiver coach, but Jerry Hill has left Las Cruces. He's now on staff at Nashville for Vanderbilt, and he's taken a couple of his star players with him. The name that everybody has known in the college football world has really fell in love with this fall. Diego Pavia was the quarterback, the architect of that upset against against Auburn last year. Obviously created and put together a more impressive, more memorable upset earlier this year when the Commodores took down the Crimson Tide. Heading with him and Kill to Nashville was Eli Stowers, but the losses for New Mexico State don't end there. They're also lost a starting defensive lineman. He's now at Syracuse. They lost another defender to Mizzou. We'll talk a little bit more about Mizzou here in a bit as we get to our scores around the country. And they lost their two leading tacklers, a middle linebacker and a safety. They're both now at Arizona State. New Mexico State's 2-7 on the year. They're just 1-5 in Conference USA. They lost to Fresno State 48-0, and then Jacksonville State 54-13. Their last win came against Louisiana Tech. It's their only conference win, a 33-30 victory in double overtime. They've had quarterback problems all year long. In fact, they've had 4 different guys take snaps under center for them this year. Behind Pavia, they lost 2 more guys. Blaze Berlowitz also went to Vanderbilt, and Gavin Frake is now at Virginia. So Santino Marucci, who wasn't with the team through spring drills, is the projected starter tonight. His stat line on the year, he's 55 for 114 attempts. That's a 48.2% completion percentage, 590 yards throwing the ball, 4 touchdowns, 7 picks in 6 games. All 6 that he's played in, New Mexico State has lost. Their ground game, Nuno talked about a little bit earlier. That's really where their offense has really found the most success. And last time we saw Texas A&M's defense, they had no success against the run. In fact, South Carolina racked up 286 yards on the ground, a season high allowed by Mike Elko and Jay Bateman's crew by far on the ground this year. Remember, Raheem Sanders ran for 115 on 20 carries. That's a 7.2 yard per carry average. And then Lenora Sellers, 116 on 15 carries, 1.1 yards per carry. It's going to be 2 guys out of the backfield that you need to keep your eye on. Seth McGowan, a former 4-star recruit that ended up signing with Oklahoma. He played the 2020 season with the Sooners. Then he fell into some legal trouble as a result of a robbery. Didn't play since that 2020 season, but he's found his way back to college football. He's gotten a second chance with Sanchez and company in Las Cruces, and he's really making the most out of it this year. He has ran for 636 yards on 120 carries. That's a 5.3 yard per carry average, 3 scores for Seth McGowan. So keep an eye on the junior, Seth McGowan, a junior, and the other name to watch, Mike Washington. He's found the end zone 6 times. He's got 536 yards on 107 carries. Now, here's where you need to keep the stats on offense, not good for New Mexico State. We talked about their passing game. They've had quarterback issues. And when you look at the stats, you're going to be like, yeah, I can see that. They average 116.6 yards per game through the air. That is 131st in the country. That is third to dead last. The only two teams that have fewer passing yards per game are West Point, who's undefeated, and Air Force. And as we know with service academies, they run the ball out of necessity. On the ground, New Mexico State's averaging 187.8 yards per game. That's 35th in the country, so not too shabby in comparison. A&M runs for 202.9 per game. That's 15th in the country. No student athlete availability report this week because this is not an SEC game. So we've got our eyes at Kyle Field. Follow TexAgs on X for live updates as the Aggies start to get running and warming up. We know Le'Veon Moss is out for the year. That's a big blow, losing number 8. So it's going to be Amari Daniels, E.J. Smith, probably more of Terry Bussey. And then, as we mentioned earlier, a little bit of a rumor about a defensive back taking snaps at running back for A&M. You'll also probably see more of Marcel Reed using his legs in the run game, trying to make up for those yards that are going to be lost because Le'Veon's out for the year. Chase Basantis is another name we're watching. Don't expect him to play in this game. Earlier this week, Mike Elko said that he's still working back in, and they hope to have him back as soon as possible. So those are the names we're going to keep an eye on. Other storylines to watch at Kyle Field this evening. Senior Day at Kyle Field. The reason it's not the last game of the year is because of that little game against this team in Austin. A lot of fuss and feathers, a lot of festivities, a lot of pomp and circumstance surrounding that one. So they'll make sure that the 12th man has their chance to honor the 26 members of this year's senior class. Go ahead and read those names off to you. Shamar Turner, Trey Watson, Randy Bond, Jabri Barber, Jade Walker, Nick Scorton, Moose Muhammad III, Demetrius Crownover, Amaje Reed-Adams, B.J. Mays II, Ruben Fothery, A.J. Denota, Shane Calhoun, Solomon DeShields, Trey Jones III, Rodis Johnson, Zachary Clay, Eli Crozell, Israel Benjamin, Drew Beltran, Drake Batia, Danny Lockhart II, Connor Abel, Caleb Serber, Blake Bose, and Sam Sauls. They'll be honored pregame. That ceremony starts at 6:25 Central Time. Additionally, this is the weekend that Texas A&M football has selected to recognize and honor the 25th anniversary of the 1999 bonfire collapse. Of course, stack fell at approximately 2:82 a.m. on November the 18th, 1999, resulting in the loss of 12 Aggies. Annual remembrance ceremony will be held Monday morning at 2:42 a.m. That'll be at the Bonfire Memorial here on campus. Last night at Midnight Yell, there was a 12 cannon shot salute to honor our fallen, and a moment of silence will take place prior to this game. There will be stickers on the back of Texas A&M's helmet. It's going to be a white remembrance ribbon, and also on the field opposite the SEC logo at the 25-yard lines, you'll see a maroon and white remembrance ribbons flanked by the years 1999 and 2024 on either side. From Texas A&M, the ribbon symbolizes the strength, unity, and unbreakable spirit of the 12th man. So A&M honoring the 25th anniversary of the fall of Bonfire here for all 12 of those Aggies. Time now to look at games around the country. Nick Savage in the backfield flashing that graphic up on the screen. He says that he updated this about 5 seconds ago, and we've got 2 games that we're watching that are currently in progress. South Carolina's got a 21-12 lead, about 4.5 minutes left in the third quarter there, that game being played in Columbia, South Carolina. A&M obviously knows how difficult it is to go into Columbia. Well, I guess both of those schools are from Columbia. Anyways, the fairgrounds there, it's the home of Sandstorm, and win a game. And then the other one, looks like SMU has come back on Boston College. That's 14th ranked SMU, now 31-21 there on the Hilltop. Nick giving me a signal. What am I watching for, Nicholas?
So it's now 31-28.
31-28.
Yep, SMU or Boston College inching back in, yeah.
Boston College refusing to go away. The reason I wanted to highlight that one, they're right in front of Texas A&M in the college football playoff rankings. A&M's 15, SMU's 14. Everything's going to take care of itself these last 3 weeks of the season. A&M, of course, controls its own destiny still. That's in the SEC, and if by virtue of winning the SEC, you would get that auto bid to the college football playoff. Other games that I kept an eye on throughout the country, Texas didn't And I promise I'm not trying to be a Texas hater just because I'm on this show here on TexAgs. They didn't look that impressive on offense today in Fayetteville. They beat the Hogs 21-10, so Arkansas did cover that 13-point spread. I still think that Texas defense is pretty stout. They kept Arkansas in check. Looking at Arkansas only ran for 82 total yards, and A&M's the team that also predicates its offense on the ground as well. Arkansas had 231 yards of total offense and 2 turnovers. Texas scored 10 of their points on a Taylon Green interception and also an 8-yard punt, Nick. I'm not kidding, an 8-yard punt. Now, that defense still very impressive. They kept Arkansas behind the sticks. They kept Taylon Green in the pocket. We know how much he likes to run. They forced a bunch of Arkansas receivers to drop passes. The Hogs, of course, didn't help themselves. And then Steve Sarkisian's offense did just enough to get it done. Jaden Blue ran for 83 yards. Quintrevion Weissner, 59 yards on the ground. And then Quinn Ewers, a turnoverless game, 176 yards passing and 2 touchdowns through the air for Quinn Ewers. That's the nation's number 3 ranked team. Nick, can you give me an update on that LSU-Florida game? I didn't see that one before you took the graphic away.
Still 13-20.
And it looks like LSU driving, 8:10 left in the fourth quarter, 1st and 10 at the Florida 21. So Garrett Nussmeier and company trying to score to bring that one back to even. And then, of course, the game that everybody's watching, just the second of the 2 ranked matchups on the docket. It's Tennessee at Georgia, and it's an interesting game for A&M and everybody else in the country. That one will kick off at 6:30 on ABC. That'll be at the Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia. The Vols are 8-1 overall, 5-1 in the SEC. The Dogs are on the brink of elimination. They haven't had a 3-loss regular season since Kirby Smart's first year in 2016. It's also the last time they lost back-to-back games, so they're in jeopardy of doing both things this year. They're 7-2, 5-2 in the conference. A loss would mean they're pretty much out of contention. Entering play today, there were 8 teams in the SEC with 2 or fewer conference losses. Georgia is in jeopardy of falling out of that picture. Somebody's going to fall out of that picture in Columbia, South Carolina as well. And a reminder that Nico Iamaleava, Nick, good or bad on the pronunciation?
Nico Iamaleava.
I tried that one. I couldn't get it done. He wasn't on Tennessee's Friday availability report, so he's going to play. Still, the Vols are 9.5-point underdogs, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one throughout the evening. We're almost through our 30-minute show here on the TexAgs Tailgate. My name is Richard Zane, and on the way out, I'm going to go ahead and give you my 5 predictions for what I expect to see tonight at Kyle Field. The first one's a softball, and I've pretty much taken a softball of my first prediction each time we've hosted this show, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The Aggies are going to win because, duh. Texas A&M Aggies, New Mexico State Aggies. Thanks for humoring me. We'll go ahead and move on. The other one that's kind of a duh is going to be that Texas A&M is going to wake up in a tie for first place in the SEC. This is a non-conference game. It's not going to affect their positioning in the SEC standings. However, when they wake up tomorrow, I think they are going to be in a tie with just one other team. I think Tennessee's going down tonight in Athens. That will mean that just 2 teams will be left with 1 conference loss. The Fighting Texas Aggies and the Texas Longhorns. Buckle up for that game just 2 weeks away from today, November the 30th here at Kyle Field. Third prediction, Texas A&M has been penalized quite frequently. They're actually among one of the country's worst in penalty yards per game. 119th with 68.78 yards per game in flags. 2 weeks between games is going to do them good, obviously. They had the open week, and then they've been able to practice getting ready for New Mexico State. I think they're going to get back to playing more disciplined football, and just at the right time as they get ready for this home stretch, they've got Auburn and Texas on deck, and they are going to have to play their best brand of football if they are going to hope to get to Atlanta and then beyond. Fourth prediction, I think Mari Daniels is going to go for a career-high rushing yards tonight. His previous career high, 91 against LSU. I think he eclipses the century mark this evening. That's because he's going to be the feature back now with Le'Veon Moss out, and also the fact that New Mexico State's defense isn't as good as other SEC Ds that A&M has seen. And my final prediction tonight, Nick Scorton. He's a Bryan kid being honored on senior night here in College Station. The most sacks he's had in a game is 2. That was against Arkansas. I think he gets a season high 2.5 or more this evening against New Mexico State. Keep padding those stats. He's already building an all-SEC resume. This is one that could help him further his cause for being a first-teamer. And with that, I think that just about does it for us on this edition of the TexAgs Tailgate Show. Our thanks to Nick Savage in the back helping me put all of this together. He's an absolute rock star, and he doesn't drink Rockstar. He drinks Monsters. He's about to go and get to Kyle Field. 6:45 on the SEC Network, Texas A&M versus New Mexico State. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you post-game when David Nuno and company wrap it up with the post-game wrap. And with that, beat the hell out of New Mexico State.